Hi again. This lesson is all about drawing what you see. So the key thing is not to create a photorealistic representation of this picture unless that's what you see. The goal is to, as we're creating, as we're drawing or painting if you prefer, focusing on the lines, the shapes, the texture, whatever is drawing you in energetically. So when I focus on an animal picture, and I've noticed that this is just the way that I connect with and express my connection with animals, is that I see lines. For example, this is one of my horse portraits, and you'll just notice the lines. So I relate that to the idea of ley lines, where they're energetically charged, they're channels, uh, and I feel the same way about my artwork. You can also see, which I posted in the lesson, one of my unicorn paintings where I do the same thing. Up on the wall behind me, you can see one of my other small unicorn paintings. Oh, and of course, the horse right behind me. That's the way that I see, and that's the way that I channel the energy through, is by using lines. So I am going to create a piece in my style. I want you first to kind of play around with what you're drawn to. Feel free to get out a sketchbook, if you have one of these little sketchbook pads or something, or just some loose paper, and sit down with photos of your animal and just notice what you see in the picture. You can break it down into shapes. If you see shapes, one thing you could do is to go through and draw on your paper. Like I see triangle, I see a rectangle, I see kind of like a square, an oval. So you can break it down into shapes. Like the top of the forehead is kind of like a triangle. Then we've got these two rectangles on top. This is kind of a square, and then there's an arc for the mouth. These are kind of like ovals for the ears, and then a straight line for the neck. So that's one way you could work with this. I'm going to put you down so you can see my paper for a second. So if I were going to work with this, with these shapes, I've drawn over my paper with these shapes, and I could do the same thing with, let's see, this guy up here. It's kind of like an upside down or another triangle, another ellipse, and then the rectangle's coming off. So I could just start out drawing these shapes. Got a triangle, I've got two rectangles, I've got a square, an oval, and another rectangle. And then over here, if I was going to do the same thing, I've got another rectangle, I've got a square, I've got another triangle, and I've got an ellipse. And then I have that. So then I have these shapes, which is, it's yellow, so I know it's not super easy to see. But I did use a lighter color because then I can go over it more darkly and fill in some of the details. So this is just one way to approach it. Give it a try. Feel free to take your own. And then I notice where in the picture, like the nostrils are kind of at the line between the triangle and the square. And they kind of form a little. And then there's this line, this mouth line, kind of halfway through the square. And then I just notice, like my eyes over here, my eyes over here. And this is actually, I'm coming up with this to demonstrate to you guys, so I haven't actually done it this way before, but this is kind of fun. They tend to have a little bit of the darker at the top. So I'll make that eye a little bigger. They have big eyes, these giraffes. And then this is kind of the jaw, and then there's a little bit of a lip, mouth kind of underneath. And then I've got my ear, which actually has a little bit more of a point to it. There's something in the center. And this is kind of a goofy little representation of a giraffe, but you get the idea. It's not supposed to be perfect. Then you can go back and add shading, you know, wherever you feel like you need to add shading. And then I've got kind of more shading on this side. And then there's some spots. It's got some spots, which I could. So just kind of find the shapes, find the common, easy shapes. Kind of like those Tangram puzzles where you're putting the shapes together to create a new picture. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here, looking at the triangle, square, and ellipse that I've created. And I notice the nose is kind of at the top of here. This is kind of like another triangle within a triangle. And the nose kind of up here. And the eye is over here. And then this kind of comes down, down. Kind of my little horn up here, and then he's got his little ear and neck. And then he's got some spots here too. There's kind of more shading on this side. This is the fun for me of chalk pastels. And then his nose, I've kind of got his nose up there. And his mouth, kind of a smile. So, that's what. All right, so this is what I've got. Interpreting those basic shapes, which I drew on top of my picture, just to kind of give me an idea of the basic building blocks. I drew these shapes with yellow, and then I went over them with red, and just created one visual representation of my animal based on what I saw, meaning the shapes. Now, the other method that I have is just focusing on my own way of seeing things. And when I see things, as with the horse painting in the back, as with this piece of horse artwork, I see lines, and lines are what I'm connected to. I relate that to, you know, the energy channels within the body. If you've ever seen Alex Gray's artwork, and he's got those lines and those channels, that's completely one way of, you know, interpreting what you see. So notice when you look at something, when you look at your photos of your animal, what do you see? What do you focus in on? Do you see colors? Do you see shapes? Do you see shadows? Focus on that, and that's what I want you to draw. So I already recorded this video once, and it didn't record, so I've already created my next piece of giraffe artwork, but I'm going to do it for you again so that you can watch the process. So I've got my giraffes again. This still has the shape on it. You could pick up another picture of your animal if you wanted to. You don't have to keep using the same photo for all of these exercises. I just am because it's easy. So I am focusing on the lines. And when I look at this, I'm going to pick up, I'm going to use my pastel this time. I'm going to pick up this pastel. And I just notice what I'm drawn to. The first thing in this picture that I'm drawn to are the eyes. So I'm going to start with an eye. And from there, I notice the shape. I see the line going up to the forehead, the line coming back down. Needs to be a bigger eye. I find this line in the middle that's connecting them. And then more of this eye with that gorgeous eyelash. From there, I notice these nostrils up here, and I have another line. This line kind of connects to here, comes down here, line, and then I start to notice connections. That's another way that I personally create. So I have this shape here that's in a shadow. Shapes and kind of connections. This is connected down. This is connected down. This is connected over to the eye. This is connected over to the eye. And there's a shadow in here, a shape of a shadow. There's another kind of shadow in here, and then this becomes a line. Now from the bottom of this line, I notice we come out and connect. Then we've got a shadow of a mouth. We've got the shape this kind of semicircle shape of this lip, and then more shadow. This line, eye connects there. The bottom of this eye connects here. I've got these lines, these shapes that go up on the top there. I can probably color in my eye a little bit more. And again, just focusing on the lines. So line shape, line shape. I'm just noticing the shapes of these lines that are connecting. This one these kind of get shaded in. From here, I've got this kind of square jaw, shading some more. Another shape, a line. I've got an ear coming off this way. I have an ear kind of coming off this way. And again, it's the lines. Then I notice another line. Then I notice another line. And I notice this shape between the lines. So that is how I connect and I draw these shapes. Just brushing some of that chalk pastel away, noticing kind of shadow, kind of shape out here. And from here, I almost have another line that comes down, another kind of semicircle, and then I draw these lines that come off. So I've got that. And then I can come in with another color. I'm actually going to use this pink just because I feel drawn to. And just adding some of the other shadows that are not quite, and this is rough. Remember, this is not what you need to see. I'm just walking you through my process and describing to you what I see as I'm creating. So please do not feel compelled to do exactly what I'm doing. I'm simply giving you a touch point, a way to tune into what you're seeing, and a way to be confident stepping out and creating that for yourself, or playing around. I mean, I don't know what this is going to look like. You saw I didn't put any pencil lines down on this paper. I am just drawing what I see, and I'm tuned into my animal's energy and medicine. From here, I'm coming back to this pastel, and I am just scribbling in these lines. Got kind of a little bit more of a jaw there. I'm going to add some of these spots. So a little more of this shading here. And this is kind of shaded more, and I'm just adding more shading. So this is my quick little fast giraffe. Again, I'm letting my intuition take over. I feel like picking up my pen, my water brush pen that is filled with ink, because I want to add more of those eyes. I want to make those eyes more prominent, because they are. That's what draws me to it. So what do I see? I see the eyes. When I look at the picture, I see the eyes. So I know, to me, the eyes are important. And so that is what I am focusing on here. And then I'm just adding some darker parts. With the lines, I see lines. I see this beautiful, handsome giraffe. I see more shadow up there, more shadow. And again, I'm just drawing the lines, and I'm also noticing those shadows in the ears. So I'm making sure to make those more prominent, because that's what I see. Therefore, having set my intention and tuned into my animal's energy, that's very important for me to be able to focus on that. So a little more, see those shadows again, just adding more layers of this. And this is my giraffe. Got the spots going on. Again, just what I see, what I see. I'm seeing the lines. I'm being drawn back to the shadow, so then I add some more shadow. And here's what we've got. So we've got this guy. We have this guy in a similar style, which you didn't watch me create because my video failed while I was recording. And then we have these guys, which was based on me looking for shapes that I recognized within the drawing or within the printout, and then drawing those shapes, those rectangles, the triangle, the square, the ovals, and then focusing on those shapes, creating those shapes first on the paper, and then adding in extra detail. So please do this as much as you like, with as many photos of your animal as you like. Really focus on being a part of the photo, being a part of that animal medicine, and putting that medicine on the paper. The specific drawing, the likeness of your drawing to whatever you're drawing from is not important. This could be completely abstract. You know, Picasso saw all these crazy sideways faces, and he made a career out of it. Well, he's famous for it, let's put it that way. So, you know, focus on what you see and the shapes, you know, starting with what you're seeing, and go from there. Enjoy the adventure. I can't wait to see what you create. Go.